Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fellowship Church. If this is your first time joining us online at FC, I just want to say thank you so much for being here with us today. If you'd like to get on our email list as a way to keep informed of all that's going on here, please take a moment and fill out what we call a connection card. You can find it right on the homepage of our website at fellowshipchurchct.com. Last Sunday, we began this new series that we're in called Bless. And to prepare for next Sunday's letter E in our Bless acronym, which is EAT, we thought it would be really fitting to have a food drive for the Amazing Grace Food Pantry here in Middletown. As a church, we do this about 3 times a year, and we think that during this Bless series, it's a great opportunity to actually be a blesser in our community. Drop-off will be next Sunday, the 27th, and you can bring your donations to the service, or you can drop it off throughout the day under the upper building carport. We as a church wanted to provide a unique way to help Ukrainian refugees during this time. And as many of you know, Fellowship Church has a relationship with Hope Partners International. We support a Hope Center in Costa Rica where Fellowship Church is actually taking a missions trip to this summer. But Hope Partners have these Hope Centers all around the world. And one of them is actually in Constanta, Romania, only 60 miles from Ukraine's border. This Hope Center has been converted to helping Ukrainian families have safe shelter, hot meals, hygiene supplies, transportation to safe areas, counseling support, and much more. If you are someone who feels led to give in this situation and it's just been on your heart recently, you can do so and give by going to our website and clicking on that Give tab there. Easter is 4 weeks from today. Our Easter services will be on Sunday at our regular times in person at 9 and 10 a.m. and also online at 8:30 and 10 a.m. Also, on Good Friday, we'll be having a Good Friday worship night. It's important to note that this is not an Easter service, rather, it will be a night of worship music and communion. So we hope to see you there. Mark it on your calendars and start inviting to both the Easter service and our Good Friday worship night. That's it for me. Thank you so much for your time. Please enjoy the rest of the service.
I was afraid. Tore down walls to bring me home. I was ashamed. In doubt, you weren't afraid to pull me out. So thank you for the way you fight for me, always bring me back to victory. Oh, you have won my heart, Jesus. Thank you for the way bring me back to victory. Oh, you have won my heart, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Oh, I will stand firm. I will for the way you fight for me, always bring me back to victory. Oh, you have won my heart, Jesus. Thank you for the way you fight for me, always bring me back to victory. Oh, you won my heart, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Oh, and every fear bows at your feet when you come, when you come, when you come, and every sickness has to leave when you come, when you come, when you come, and every healing is complete when you come, when you come, when you come, and every dead man starts to breathe when you come, when you come, when you come. So thank you for the way you fight for me, always bring me back to victory. Oh, you have won my heart, Jesus. Thank you for the way you fight for me, always bring me back to victory. Oh, you have won my heart, Jesus. Whoa, Jesus. Oh, every fear bows at your feet when you come, when you come, when you come, and every sickness has to leave when you come, when you come, when you come, and every healing is complete when you come, when you come, when you come, and every dead man starts to breathe when you come, when you come, when you come. So thank you for the way you fight for me, always bring me back to victory. Oh, you have won my heart, Jesus. Thank you for the way you fight for me, always bring me back to victory. Oh, you have won my heart, Jesus.
Well, hey there, it's great to be with you again. I'm so glad that you're tuning in, no matter where you are, no matter what day of the week it is. I'm just glad to be able to connect with you. Hey, we're continuing our series here called Bless. And in this series, we're getting super practical by discovering how we can unpack everyday habits which allow us to really live to our greatest purpose while improving the quality and even the stories of our lives. Here's what I want you to do to get started. Think of someone you know who doesn't have a relationship with Jesus. Maybe they haven't experienced his love and they don't really know anything about his joy. And they're tracking through life, they're grinding it out, they're doing the best that they can with their limited strength and limited perspective. Now, imagine them being introduced to Jesus. Imagine them experiencing life with Jesus just like you. I mean, what a blessing that is. See, I think we all want the people in our life to have a life-giving relationship with Jesus, don't we? Yet instead of, our mission being here at Fellowship of helping people find and follow Jesus, we tend to go through our days hoping people find and follow Jesus. Hope. We do that a lot in life, don't we? We hope that our kids turn out okay. We hope that our marriage remains strong. We hope to find somebody one day. We hope to lose some weight or to get healthier someday. But we've all heard this. Hope, well, it's not a strategy, right? So over these next few weeks, we're taking a look at some very basic, intentional types of habits that we can really create and develop to allow us to live life more on purpose and to introduce people to a life-giving relationship with Jesus. And we're calling it Bless. Now, Bless is not a formula we follow, but really it's a simple lifestyle that we live and engage in. It's really, honestly, how we love people. So last week you heard through Pastor Ross that we began with prayer. And I think about prayer. Prayer isn't the least that we can do for sure. And it's not all that we can do. There's other things we can do. But it really is the most that we can do. So we always want to start with prayer. But the second one that we're going to talk about today is listen. The L stands for listen. Then the E stands for eat. The first S stands for serve. And the final S stands for story. Now, some of Jesus' final words, what we call today the Great Commission, are all about intentionality. In Matthew 28, Jesus' words are recorded. He says, therefore, go and make disciples of all the nations. Honestly, you could really say the way that was originally spoken was, as you are going, as you're living your life, make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands that I've given you, and be sure of this, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age. So our mission here at Fellowship to help people find and follow Jesus is really just being a true friend to them. The Holy Spirit is the one who really changes lives. It's not us. So no pressure. You don't have to put this overwhelming sense of, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. Just be you as a follower of Jesus. So today we're going to learn more about the L in Bless, and that's listening. Listening, honestly, especially today, is such an act of love. It is so noisy out there, isn't it? There's so many distractions. Think about it. Have you ever been in a conversation and then literally forgot what you were talking about? Right? You just go, what just happened here? I forgot what we were talking about. What were you just saying? Our minds are so preoccupied, aren't they? It's so hard sometimes just to be present. It reminds me of what author David Augsburger said. He says, being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they're almost indistinguishable. Those are strong words. Listening, though, is so hard, isn't it? We get stuck in our past. We worry about the present. We're distracted by the future. I remember as a teenager once I was playing a game called Capture the Flag at camp. And I loved that game, and I loved to compete. It was so much fun. We were trying to get the flag from the other team, and this took place in the woods and through some fields as well. And I remember I was running through the woods that day, and I was looking ahead as to plan my way through the woods, hoping I wouldn't get caught. But then I was looking back also to see if I was being noticed and being chased. And I had no idea where I was actually standing in that moment. And where I was standing, I had just disturbed a ground nest of yellow jackets. And they started stinging over and over and over. I am not lying here. 15 stings. Yeah, it was miserable. And I think about this. We've all gotten stung by distraction, haven't we? Life is so complicated. We navigate change more today than we ever have. We're changing jobs, changing job cultures and responsibilities. Even in our own relationships, we have relational change that take place. We have, if you're in school, you're changing college majors. We're changing channels and changing subscribers. We're changing everything. Add to that what Bob Goff says in his new book, Distracted. He says, we follow a God we can't see, for a lifetime we can't measure, to a heaven we can't even comprehend, because of a grace that we didn't even earn. We live with such distraction that most people only remember about 20% of the things that they actually hear, that they listen to. 20%. So how can we move from distraction to being present and becoming good listeners? Think how listening would improve our relationships. Think about how listening would improve your job performance. You know, someone has said the opposite of listening is not speaking. It's when we wait to speak. You know, when you're planning what you're going to say, you're not really listening, right? I mean, think of the word listen itself. This is kind of cool. If you scramble the letters of the word listen, you actually come up with the word silent. You know, we all could stand to get better at quieting down and listening, right? Well, that being said, Jesus was a phenomenal listener. He consistently took time to show love over and over in the most simple, practical way, by listening. Luke records this encounter that Jesus had with a blind beggar on the side of the road. He and his group of followers were walking down the road, and this blind beggar was yelling out to Jesus that he needed his help. And it says when Jesus heard him, Luke writes, he stopped and he ordered that the man be brought to him. And as the man came near, Jesus asked him, "What do you want me to do for you?" "Lord," he said, "I want to see." I love what Jesus does here. He hears him. He crouches down and asks this question. He listens to him, and then he helps him. What an act of love. Now, ironically, in that context, the people who were around Jesus just before that moment were telling that beggar to keep his mouth shut, to be quiet. Completely opposite. In another encounter with a man who couldn't walk, Jesus noticed him as well. John records this one. It says, when Jesus saw him and knew that he'd been ill for a long time, he asked him, "Would you like to get well?" He asks a question, and he listens before he blesses this man. At another time, Jesus sends out the 12, and they serve people all day. And at the end of the day, they come back and they have this debrief with Jesus, and they're sharing all these stories of how they blessed hundreds of people. And Jesus just listened. Look at Mark records this. He says the apostles returned to Jesus from their ministry tour and told him all that they had done and taught. You know, we're drawn to the miracles, aren't we? We're drawn to those big events. Even today, we love big, noisy things. But the ordinary moments in our life, you know, those are just as important. We actually have a lot more of those. And life is filled with those. And it's not just the wow moments of our life, but those regular moments that matter. You know, you can really hear the heart of people when you pull up that chair and you listen. See, we all can be distracted and fail to listen to the people all around us. You know, sometimes the only way we can know how to bless people, though, really, is to just slow down and ask them. You know, my wife Laura, she trains nurses. This happens in medicine all the time, she says. When she's training the nurses in school, she says, look, I want you to look at the patients, ask them questions, make assessments from what you see and what you hear. And these small adjustments from a caring and listening nurse can really make all the difference for a patient. You know, sometimes it's things as simple as recognizing that they're not getting enough fluids, and that's really important. Or moving that person to a different position in the bed, or even getting them out of that bed and sitting in a chair for a little while. But just paying attention and listening. I believe it was in the Harvard Business Review did an article once on doctors and how their life is so fast and so hectic that when they're asking the patient how they're doing, the doctor, on average, interrupts patients explaining their symptoms within just 11 seconds. Because their workload is crazy and they're moving from patient to patient throughout the day, they just don't feel they have a lot of time. And so they're just finishing their sentences for them. They don't always take the time to listen. And this leads to all kinds of complications for these patients. So how does this apply to our purpose, though, as Jesus followers? How many times do we miss cues from people that we do life with? Important ones that could matter for eternity. Listen, I want to encourage you to listen for some come sit with me opportunities. These are opportunities where you could, through listening to those around you, invite people to come sit with you right here at church or right here online. See, I've talked about this before, and we've heard this from Pastor Andy Stanley. He calls it the 3 knots, right? And so the first one is not going to church. You know, you might get in a conversation with somebody and they're saying, and in that conversation they say, hey, you know, I've just moved in the area here. I haven't found a church. I'm not really connected anywhere. I'm not going to church. That's a cue for you to say, well, why don't you come sit with me? My church will maybe change your view about church if you haven't been to one before. Let me know what you think. We can talk about it. Or maybe there's another cue, another not. Things are not going well. You know, and that could be a whole lot of different things. There's a lot of people, a lot of us are in that position where things are not going well in our lives. And when you hear that things aren't going well, you can just say to them, well, why don't you come sit with me? My church has been a great help to me. As a matter of fact, for you, it probably was how you found church, right? It was because things weren't going well and kind of got your attention. You said, maybe I could do something different, go somewhere different. Or maybe this third not, I was not prepared for. We get that a lot, right? I mean, we hear that a lot, especially today. But think about people that are going through transitions in life. Maybe they were just married or have a new job, and they're like, man, I was not prepared for all the change that come along with this. Or how about your first child? I don't care how you prepare. You'll never be prepared for that, right? Or even maybe moving it to being an empty nester. These are all opportunities where people say, look, I just felt like I wasn't prepared for this. You can say to them, man, why don't you come sit with me? We gather with people that are in all stages of life, and you'll see that you're not alone. So imagine if we all did this. I mean, most of us here today found this place because, honestly, somebody invited you to come sit with them. And so here we are on this mission with our Heavenly Father. And we're not just about hoping people find and follow Jesus. We're actually helping people find and follow Jesus. Are we giving attention to those spaces that God has placed us in? What if we were just to slow down, be quiet, and listen? You know, have you ever gone to a nice restaurant? All your senses, are up, the smells, the sights, the sound when you walk in. You just that overall vibe you're looking for, right? And then you're seated at the table and eventually the server comes by and you listen for those specials, right? And you're asking all these questions for clarity and you listen some more because you want to get the most out of that experience, right? Well, Paul was a great listener as well, and he entered a new culture in Greece. So it's kind of like as we go into new restaurants, he entered into this new culture in Greece. And it's Acts 17. Look at how Paul is paying attention. So Paul, standing before the council, addressed them as followers. He said, men of Athens, I noticed, look at that word, I noticed that you're very religious in every way. For as I was walking along, I was listening with my eyes, I saw your many shrines. And one of your altars had this inscription on it. So I read this, I'm paying attention, I'm listening. To an unknown God. This God whom you worship without knowing is the one that I'm telling you about. I mean, this is Paul's come sit with me moment, right? Before he tells them anything, he observes though, right? He's listening with his ears and with his eyes. And then he says, he is the God who made the world and everything that's in it. And since he's the Lord of heaven and earth, he doesn't live in man-made temples, and human hands can't serve his needs, for he has no needs. He himself gives life and breath to everything, and he satisfies every need. You know, Paul understood the importance of paying attention to the places that he's in, to leaning into what God would have him do and even say. And his conversation was always centered around their point of view, not necessarily just his own. I love that. He's building bridges by listening and being careful and observing. It reminds me of what Dallas Willard once said. He said, the first act of love is always giving attention. I mean, don't we hear it today? People don't feel seen. They don't feel heard. There's all this noise, but nobody's really listening. So as we move into a more purposeful way of living, as we intentionally seek to bless people, we begin with prayer, as we learned last week. We allow that to help us lean into a posture of listening to those that God's placed into our lives. So what if today our next step was simply this, that we would have a prayer every day, And our prayer would be this: Jesus, help me listen today. Just help me listen. Imagine what this simple prayer could do for the relationship with your kids or your spouse, or for that customer or your friend, if you would just listen. Maybe you'll meet a practical need, an emotional one, or even a spiritual need. Maybe you'll even have an opportunity to share with them the hope that you have and invite them to come sit with you at fellowship. Well, as we listen, may we share the heart of Jesus, and may we move from hoping that people find and follow Jesus to actually helping people find and follow Jesus. Jesus, help us listen today.